Stop complaining. Today we want to talk about how the victim mindset is quietly hurting your health and your team. Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm a coach and consultant helping professionals just like you master difficult conversations and lead with confidence under pressure. By the end of this video, you will have clear strategies to stop complaining and how the victim mindset is quietly hurting your health and your team, most importantly. Picture this. You're standing in line at the coffee shop and someone cuts in front of you. You might feel like you're having a bad day and you're like, unbelievable, you mutter, right? Why does this stuff always happen to me? By the time you finally get your latte, you're still fuming inside, replaying the injustice like it's a crime documentary. We all get upset sometimes over simple things that we should just let go, right? But the rest of the day, feel like it's ruined. Sound familiar? We all complain. It's practically a human pastime. But when complaining becomes a habit and it slides into victim mentality, that everything bad happens to me, people cut me in line, people cut me off when I'm driving, it's more than just annoying. It's bad for your health, and it can quietly poison your team's culture. So what does complaining actually do to the brain? Let's take a look at that, right? Neuroscience shows that the brain loves efficiency. When you complain repeatedly, your brain wires itself to make complaining easier, believe it or not, in the future. So it starts to become part of who you are. And psychologists call this neuroplasticity. In other words, the more you complain, the better that you get at it. And your brain doesn't just make complaining easier. It also starts filtering the world to look for things to complain about. How about that? That's really scary, right? You're literally training your brain to find the negative, which we naturally go to the negative, right? So we don't want to be training our brain to do more of that. According to research published in the Journal of Neuroscience, chronic stress, which is triggered by constant negativity and that victim mindset and thinking, it can shrink the hippocampus in your brain. It's the part of your brain responsible for memory and learning. So we don't want to shrink anything. We want our brain robust, right? But complaints equal a cortisol cocktail. Every time you complain, your body releases cortisol, that stress hormone. And normally cortisol helps you to survive many threats like running from a bear, which I'm sure most of us don't do on a daily basis, right? But when your body is constantly bathing in cortisol from everyday frustrations and the small things, things go downhill fast. Chronic high cortisol levels are linked to higher blood pressure, lower immune function, and increased risk of heart disease. One Stanford study found that just 30 minutes of complaining, which isn't a lot of time, right? It could physically damage neurons in your hippocampus. So stop complaining, even for 30 minutes. Look what it's doing, right? 30 minutes. That's one bad Zoom or Teams call away from literally frying your brain cells. Not good. We need to get off that. So victim mentality at work is a silent culture killer as well. Complaining is one thing. So we're hurting our health, we're hurting our mindset and our attitude. But that victim mentality, the belief that life is happening to you and you have no control, doesn't just sabotage your health, it can wreck your team's culture. So think about it. When one person constantly plays the victim, it drains the entire team's morale. So one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. It really can. It creates an us versus them mindset, and it fuels all this gossip and it normalizes blame instead of creating solutions. So it's putting your team in the wrong mindset, and they're also not working towards solutions to problems within your company, and they're so focused on the negative. Gallup research has shown that disengaged employees, often those stuck in that complaining and that victim loop, they cost organizations up to 34% of their salary in lost productivity. And negativity is contagious. I think that you see it all the time, all that negative water cooler talk that can go on, right? Studies show that emotions spread through groups like wildfire, meaning one complainer can shift the tone of the entire meeting, the entire team. And for leaders, the danger is doubled. If you lead with the victim mindset and you're blaming corporate, the market, or difficult employees, your team mirrors that behavior. Yes, you heard that right. They are watching everything that you're doing, all of your actions. So when you have the victim mindset, guess what? Every person on your team starts to become affected. So instead of resilience and problem solving, which we want out of our employees, right? You end up with all of this finger pointing, low accountability, and more importantly, high turnover, which is not a good thing because you lose, guess what? Your best employees, and you're stuck with those that are on this negative spiral. So how do you break the cycle? The good news here is that you can wire your brain to complain or not to complain, and you can rewire it for resilience. And teams can do the same. So catch the complaints early. Keep a complaint journal maybe for 1 week. Leaders can extend this to team meetings. Notice if the group spends more time on problems than solutions. So that's a good one to catch, right? Try to be mindful, present, and start to see if your team is moving in that direction. You also want to flip it. For every complaint, challenge yourself or your team to offer one possible solution. This project is a mess. Like we hear all that all the time, right? Here's the one way that we can simplify the process. So push your team to have a solution in mind for all of your complaints. Like my friend Yusuf always used to say to me, if you oppose, then propose. So this will quiet many of the frequent complainers out there, right? So if someone on your team is a constant complainer, you could say it in a kind way of saying, hey, I know that you're bringing all these problems to me. When you bring a problem, bring some solutions, bring some ideas at least. And choose agency over victimhood. Leaders should model this wholeheartedly. What can we control? What's in our sphere of influence? The mindset shift builds trust and accountability. So if we're not reflecting agency over that resilience and looking for what can we control, what can't we control, and trying to get our teams out of, this whole spiral of complaining, we're never going to get there. So we have to be the ones to model this. And start to normalize gratitude. Research out of UC Davis shows that gratitude lowers stress hormones and boosts well-being. So simple rituals like starting meetings with, let's talk about one win, can shift the energy completely. Because we want to talk about the good things, right? So many of us as leaders or our employees, they're doing such great things, but we never talk about the good, right? We're always talking about all the mess and the things that need to be fixed. So start off your meetings talking about the good and the exciting to get people in that mindset. Not that we don't want to address the bad or the messy, but get everyone psyched and excited to come to work and to be on the team. Complaining feels good in the moment, like scratching an itch, but if you're not careful, it becomes your default setting. Over time, victim mentality doesn't just chip away at your health, it chips away at your team's culture, their creativity, resilience, and their interest in staying on your team and with the company. So the next time you feel the urge to spiral into complaint mode, which is so easy to do, pause and ask yourself, do I want to train my brain and my team for resilience or for resentment, right? It's all about mindset here. Because whether you're leading yourself or leading others, everyone's watching. And everyone's health and performance is on the line because of the things that you do, because you're reflecting back at them like a mirror. So if you found this content helpful, if you found it valuable, please consider sharing, please consider subscribing, and we will see you all next time.